Good evening. My name is Samuel Ibrahim, and welcome to the Mind of the Prophet Meditation Hour. Thank you very much for joining me on my very first podcast episode. And before I do anything, I'm very much like the very well known Pastor Joel Osteen, and he likes to start all of his sermons off with a message. So I would like to start mine off with my affirmation, which I love to say, and I've seen it do wonderful things in my life. So I share this freely with you listeners. And if you are ready, here we go with the Ibrahim affirmation. I am, and you state your name. I am awake. I am free. The universe responds to me as I am, and I am wholeheartedly myself, which is who God formed me to be. I am abundant in perfect love. I am aware of my daily provisions within each day. I am healthy in every way, and I make healthy choices. I am leaving an everlasting impression upon planet Earth. Each day I awake in heaven. Each night I go to sleep in the same. I am not anxiously waiting or impatiently waiting for money promised to me. I am not overlooked. I am not forgotten. I am compensated in full for my love, time, and energy. I am wealthy in every way imaginable, and so are my loved ones. I am divine, and I will not accept money that betrays my divinity. I am attracting the matter needed to form the manifestation of my prayers. I am aware of the resources available to manifest my wildest dreams, and I use those resources without fear. I am efficient in the execution of my plans. I am allowing my life to collapse into an effortless, perfect order. I am repelling all energy and persons who distract me from my path or delay the manifestation of my prayers. I am attracting creative, loving, and energetic spirits obedient to the call of my voice to release the most divine manifestation of my talents. I am attracting fearless souls, unapologetic in their devotion to living a full life. I am not anxious or fearful. I am courageous and fearless in all my affairs. I am not poor in any area of my life. My loved ones are not poor in any areas of their lives. I am forgiven all my sins and hold zero guilt within my heart. I have the universe's favor, and therefore the universe will do favors for me. I am attracting all who will project prosperity into my life, and I reciprocate the same prosperous projection into theirs. I repel all who cannot see me as prosperous. I am comfortable with uncomfortable truths. I refuse anything to the contrary. I am insist upon all of the aforementioned, without exception. The universe, being honest, is always faithful to answer whatever we ask of it. Now, I know that was probably longer than what some folks do with their affirmations, but I think if you're saying a short affirmation, you're really cheating yourself as far as the power that you can draw from the affirmation. So I won't skirt into that too soon. Let me introduce who I am, what this podcast is about, and why I'm here. So I am Samuel Ibrahim. Most people still know me as Samuel Wesley. I am a licensed attorney in the state of Texas. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. I've lived in several places. I've lived in Newport, Rhode Island. I've also lived in Miami, Florida. And I went to college in Prairie View, Texas. I stopped practicing law. I don't think that the justice system is set up for poor people. Most of my clients were middle class, lower middle class, or poor, and they just cannot afford the type of defense that I believe that they need to be successful in the United States' criminal justice system, and that could be all over the world. Who knows? But I just cannot sign my name to any more decrees, orders, plea agreements, anything of that nature where I was in any way confining the freedom of the person that I represented. I just could not do that. I felt like it was a betrayal of myself and to the client, even if they agreed to it. So I walked away from that. In the midst of the pandemic and through my own personal tragedies, I started writing a blog. Actually, it wasn't a blog to begin with. I started writing in a journal. I believe in journaling. I believe in meditation. It has done amazing things for my life. So I started writing because I had so many thoughts. I spent a lot of time in meditation, and I would get lost in it sometimes. And I started to have to take those thoughts and put them on paper because I felt like I was going to lose my mind otherwise. So I started writing almost every day, several times a day, and then that turned into a blog called the Mind of the Prophet, blog on WordPress. The web address for that is www.mindoftheprophet.com. www.mindoftheprophet.com. It is active. I have probably 300 entries or so on the blog right now. I started writing last August. So the blog, I love doing it. I still contribute to it probably 3 or 4 times a day in a lot of ways, or update previous posts. And then that led to 2 books. Mind of the Prophet, The Diary of a Curious Mind, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Both of those books are available on Amazon exclusively. Jeff Bezos just, run me some money for that plug. Or Mackenzie Bezos can, because she gave PV some money. I'll gladly take one of those fire donations too. And it's also on Amazon Audible. The first Volume 1 was narrated by Clay Lomakayu, who's really good. Volume 1 is more rooted in the Bible. I used to be a Baptist minister. I preached for, I heard my calling in 2002. I started preaching in 2012, 11, 12. That's when I got licensed. And I stopped preaching for a while, but nevertheless, I don't want to go too far into that. But Volume 1, very scripturally rooted, very biblically rooted. It does touch on some expansive ideas when it comes to God. It does have some poetry in there, but anyone who has a scriptural or biblical foundation will likely find Volume 1 a pleasurable book to listen to and read. It talks about the prophet's experience, any prophet's experience, not just one in particular, but I talk about Adam, I talk about Moses, I talk about Cain, I talk about Isaac, Jacob. These are all prophets in the Bible, and just talk about what was it like to live a first-person experience as a prophet, right? That's what Volume 1 is about. It was really trying to put the reader or the listener into the shoes of the prophet so they could understand what was it like to be a prophet. So let me give you an example of that. If you guys have read any type of prophecy, especially some of the scarier ones, so we won't even talk, like Revelations, because I think that's a distorted book within the Bible. But let's just talk about, some of the prophets like Daniel, some prophets like Ezekiel. Ezekiel actually had some terrifying sounding and looking prophecies if you look into the Bible. So what you have to remember about a man that is having a prophetic vision or a revelation or receiving a revelation from God is their feet are still very firmly planted on planet Earth. Their feet are on the ground. Yet their mind, their spirit has ascended to another dimension to where now they are in that holy realm, spending time with God or one of the angels, and they are getting a message. They are receiving a vision. So you just have to imagine what it's like for this person to be literally at least in 2 places at one time, at least 2, depending on what the vision is or the revelation is or how animated the vision is. It can be a terrifying experience. It could, Ezekiel saw dry bones reassembling into an army. Now just imagine you seeing a bunch of skeletons. You're already kind of daydreaming. You have no idea if this is real or not. And then you just start seeing skeletons similar to an army. Put yourself in a first-person experience of that. How would you respond to something like that? And then, after it's over with, you wake up. Or you snap out of it. And your feet are still, again, firmly planted on the ground. And now you have to walk out your calling after experiencing something as terrifying as skeletons reassembling to an army, like bone by bone. That's just one example. But if you really give strong consideration to that experience for that individual prophet, it should expand any reader's understanding of possibly, if they have any type of compassion or empathy, they should be trying to understand what was that like. So I'll give you one more example. Jacob wrestled with God or wrestled with an angel on his way to meet his brother Esau. And anybody who has any type of scriptural foundation knows that Jacob stole Esau's birthright. I won't go into too deep into the story. I don't want to repreach what folks already know. But when he was going back to meet his brother for the first time since stealing the birthright, Jacob wrestled with an angel all night long. It said the Bible says until daybreak. So now let's just add some real wrinkles to this, right? So because that's only a few passages of scripture, you think that all night you kind of gloss over that. I want you to think about this. Jacob didn't have like a light sockets or artificial light. He didn't have candles. Hopefully he had a fire, right? But it was dark. Wherever he was, the only light he probably had was a lantern. And now he's fighting an angel. Now, let's just unpack that, right? If he knows that he's fighting an angel, then he already knows that he's not winning that fight. He's out there by himself, wrestling with something supernatural all night long. I'm just gonna have a pregnant pause right there. Because if you can't really understand, I'm not even gonna say understand. If you can't imagine what that was like to fight with something supernatural, then furthermore, it says that they wrestled all night. So this wasn't an angel trying to bring Jacob, uh, some Girl Scout cookies and a smile on his face. Like they came to box. He came to prove a point. Jacob was trying to prove a point. The angel was trying to prove a point. Jacob was man enough though to wrestle with them all night. And I would just say that I don't know how much wrestling actually happened. I would just say Jacob probably just didn't quit because he knew he wasn't winning that fight in the beginning. He just had enough courage to hold on until the end. That's a word for somebody. Anyway, so just think about wrestling with something that you probably couldn't see all night long and then going to meet your brother. Like, how do you even reconcile something like that within your mind as a human being? And so, volume one takes that type of analysis towards stories as they relate to individuals within the Bible. I'll give you one more. Talk about Adam and Eve. And so their story is very abbreviated within the Old Testament. So we don't really have a first person account of Adam's life, which I think anybody who knows the story of Adam and Eve, that would just make their experience on earth a lot more understandable. I think it will help us to understand, what it is that we're missing, whatever Adam and Eve's Garden of Eden looked like, or whatever their heaven was like to them. I think everybody kind of wants to know, like, what's the big deal? What is this heaven that everybody's trying to get back to? Because Adam and Eve got kicked out, according to the Bible, for Eve, being tempted by the serpent. I don't personally believe the way that that's set up, but I'm just running the story down for you. But just think about this. Adam was the first man created, according to the Bible. Then Eve was created second. Then they get banished from Eden for Eve eating fruit because she desired wisdom. Adam did not have any parents. So I'm just going to assume that God was merciful enough to, tell him more than once to not eat from, the tree that they weren't supposed to eat from. But the Bible doesn't say that. It just says, God says it one time, and they mess up one time, and then they get kicked out. So just imagine Adam's transition from Eden to having to use his hands for the first time. What was that like for him? Then also accept the fact that Adam was likely illiterate, but he had no reason to learn how to write. All he did was speak and create. God only spoke to him, and he had no reason to learn how to put anything on paper. So I can see why we don't have a first person account of anything that he went through. But I would love to know, what was that experience like when you had that level of intimacy, that level of interaction, personal interaction, with God's presence on a daily basis. And then also, I just want to hear the real story for myself. It couldn't have just been one time, and it couldn't have just been. I don't think that story just doesn't add up to me. I'm just gonna drop my little conspiracy pin right now and just say this, and I don't care who this offends. In Genesis, it says that Eve, desiring wisdom, ate from the tree. Why is that a bad thing? It shouldn't be a bad thing. If you're really thinking about who can live without wisdom, nobody. There's a whole book dedicated to wisdom, the book of Proverbs. Solomon specifically asked God for wisdom, and God gave it in a measure that the world hasn't seen since then, that most people know of. So why is eating wisdom a bad thing? Is it only because God said not to eat from the tree? I just don't buy that. That's not the type of God that I would like to serve. And that's the type of God that that character of God I've stopped serving because I think it's a false image of who he is. So that's volume one. I kind of went too much into the analysis, but it's like an hour and 11 minute listen on Audible. If you just insist on burning trees, you can buy the book on Amazon. It's $40. I actually asked Amazon to raise the price to $250 to deter people from buying a paper book. Just listen to the book. Faith come by hearing. All right, so volume two is actually it's my favorite. And Jeanette Villafanier, she narrates volume two. Volume two expands upon God's character. In my opinion, it asks different questions to the reader. It just, in my opinion, touches more on the enormity of God's character. I call God the universe, and the reason why I do that is because, you can find God to a church building, and church buildings have ceilings. You can find God to book covers, and book covers have a beginning and an end. The universe is infinite. God is also infinite. And in my opinion, that is a better adjective to describe God than just God. Like, if you don't really dive into the character of what God means, then universe is actually a better way to say him because it expands your imagination of just what's possible with God. I'll give you an example. First of all, the universe is infinite. That should just be enough for anybody with imagination. But everyone doesn't have imagination, I've learned. But just imagine, in all of the universe, no two planets are the same, no orbits are the same, no suns are the same. Some planets can rain diamonds, some planets are completely made of diamonds. Everything within the universe is unique. And so that is a better way, in my opinion, to describe God's character because there's no way you can know it all. There's no way for any one person to know it all. So you can't confine God to a doctrine. You can't confine him to one book. It's just unfair to God's character. So I'm going to smash the windows on all of that because I think it does God a disservice to limit him to 3 letters in a building and a book, and people are not really getting a full understanding or measure of who he is. So volume 2 goes more into the metaphysical. I use a lot of different adjectives when describing God or the universe. I believe the universe is honest. I believe the universe honors our spoken word. I know the universe honors our spoken word. And I believe that the universe is faithful to answer whatever you ask of it. I say that every day, multiple times a day, because I've seen that just respond as such in my life. And honestly, that's just God responding. I just choose an adjective that makes more sense for me. God to me is just like saying cat or dog or tree. Like, there's a bunch of different kind of trees. There are a bunch of different kind of dogs and cats and birds or chips. I want to be specific. Like, today I might be, with this aspect of God's character. Another day I could be with a different aspect of God's character. There's so many facets to who God is. How can we limit him to 3 words and a few books and say, there you go, and then no other messengers are going to come after the last ones we've heard? I'm just going to curse right now and just tell everybody that's listening, that's bullshit. And if you're foolish enough to think that, then we need to rethink whoever the hell is teaching, kids how to read, write, and do arithmetic right now. Because if anybody is trying to preach and teach that God is infinite, but they've limited God's wisdom to books that were written 2,000 years ago or 1,300 years ago, you're fooling yourselves and you don't know God's character. If the sun is still shining, that means that God is still moving. And if we serve a living God, he's going to give us a living word. And a living word don't die on the vine 2,000 years ago. Or if you're Muslim, it doesn't die with the Quran. God will always send a new messenger. And actually, Muslims know that. Muslims are well aware that God will send another messenger if God chooses to. In my opinion, the Quran is actually a beautiful book, very poetic. I have a wonderful narration in my Audible account. I don't know who this guy is, but maybe it's just his voice. But he makes it just sound like the most beautiful piece of literature. even though I know it's a holy book, it sounds like a piece of literature to me. I can go to sleep to the Quran. Like, it doesn't. The Quran does not hit any of my triggers. Like, no, if I could sleep through something that I know I really don't, none of my triggers are hit. The Quran does not hit any of my triggers. It's very logical. I think it gives a depth of God's character that no other book does that I'm aware of. And and I read a lot, and I say that it's limited to that. I just haven't been made aware of one that goes into that. It talks about previous messengers. It's not chronological, so it's not telling a story. It's not telling you from Adam and Eve to Revelations like the Bible does. The Quran is a collection of stories. Several things are repeated. God gives his character and his understanding in different ways to where, anybody with common sense could get understand what the message is within those different stories, if they're listening and they don't let their religious bias prevent them from receiving what's being said. To tell you the truth, like, I used to work with special needs children when I practiced law, and an autistic child would love the Quran. Like, an autistic child would listen to that, and for them it's like, oh, if God is X, then if God says X, God is going to do Y. They're very logical like that. It would be so easy for them to listen to that, and it will completely change, I believe, their character of who they understand God to be. It certainly expanded mine from Christianity. So anyway, nevertheless, Volume 2, I got sidetracked because I do that sometimes. Volume 2 touches on or expands upon my understanding of God as he has revealed himself to me. And I will play. I'm going to, I wonder if I can read some of these excerpts. I don't know. I don't have a copy of my book. I only have the audible version of it, but I can still say it. I want to say the first prayer, or the first entry in Volume 2, partly because I think it's a really unique way to pray, but also because Genevieve Fanier, my excellent narrator, like, crushed it. Like, she crushed the intro to Volume 2, and I'm just competitive, and I wouldn't be able to do it better than her. And when she listens to this, she's really gonna laugh. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. If not, I'm gonna see if I can at least just play. And I think I could do that. I'm gonna play it. Let's see if it'll do that.
Tree 1. Infinite intelligence, which existed before time, you are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Ancient wisdom that cries aloud in the street for those who will listen. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Universal energy, which cannot be created nor destroyed. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Angelic warriors who have been commanded to keep my foot from striking the stone. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Eternal friendship who abides within me and me within it. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Unlimited mercy, which is renewed every morning. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Incorruptible abundance of which I am an heir. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Divine prosperity, which has been promised to me. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Inexhaustible imagination that extends to the far reaches of space and colors the universe. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Immovable peace, which surpasses all understanding. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Perfect order, which banishes all confusion. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Windows of heaven, which pours out blessings too big enough for me to receive and enlarges my territory. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Dreams deferred, Arise and come forth so that my heart may be healed. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Indiscernible mysteries. Reveal yourself to my spirit so that I may see clearly. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Unquestionable freedom. Lose any shackles that keep me bound so that I may live without fear. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Unfailing love that has the power to conquer all. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Creation, which already exists. Remove the scales from my eyes so that I may see heaven. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Amen.
All I can say is wow. So let me just tell you a funny story about Jeanette. This was her Mind of the Prophet, The Diary of a Curious Mind, Volume 2, was the very first audiobook that she narrated for, that she auditioned for. She was the very first person to send me a message, and she was the only person to thank me for the opportunity and the words that I wrote. And so I knew right away that she was the one before I even listened to the audition. And then let me just tell you, the audition sounded basically like what you guys just heard. That's how she came out the gate. So she's like amazing. She's more than amazing. She's rare, and I just want to make sure that she gets her due, her roses right now. But let's talk about that entry. That's entry 1 on Mind of the Prophet, The Diary of a Curious Mind, Volume 2. And it starts off saying, infinite intelligence, which existed before time, you are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Infinite intelligence. That is, in my opinion, an amazing adjective to describe God's character. Now we're talking about infinity. We're talking about intelligence. We're talking about the Big Bang. We're talking about the far reaches of space and the universe. We're talking about things and mysteries within the cosmos that man doesn't even know yet, right? And so, to me, that's God, right? How can it not be God? Is it not God because it's not in a Bible or a building? Like, I don't hear any religious leaders really kind of going into this level of understanding of God's character. You hear a lot about God's word that, in my opinion, is very limiting. But if you want to know about God, look up, look into the sky, look into the infinite intelligence that's in front of you. Here's a great way for a great illustration, I think, for me, and I say great a lot because I get excited when I talk about God. God is great. Think about the sun. You walk outside, that sunlight that you feel, you think that is probably sunlight that was created today, and it's there to warm your skin. It's traveling from the sun to the earth to warm you up. And that's actually not true. The light that you feel outside is at least 100,000 years old before it even touches your skin. Before you feel the heat from the sun rays that you will feel in the morning, just know that their starseed started its journey to become sunlight at least 100,000 years ago. At least, right? That's infinite. So the light that you even see is ancient already. The light that you feel when you walk outside is older than anybody that you've ever read about in history. Okay? So how can God not be ancient? How can God not be infinite when the light that touches your skin is older than Jesus? It's older than Muhammad. It might be older than Noah, for all we know. Who knows? But only God knows. But that's just the whole point. Like, expand who you understand God to be. If the sunlight that touches your body is 100,000 years old, how much wisdom is in that sunlight if it's been alive for that long? Sometimes you just need to ask, and that's even a good question. This is why people don't understand. I feel like they understand the access that they have to God's intelligence. If the sunlight that touched your skin is 100,000 years old, you can ask God, what wisdom does this sunlight have for me? God will answer the question for you. If you're willing to listen to the answer or willing to accept whatever answer He tells you. And that's not pagan. That's asking God a question because you're curious. I do that all the time. And so to me, that is infinite intelligence. And it goes way further back than that. You can start at the Big Bang, and there's still things about the beginning of the known universe that man still hasn't figured out. These are the things that God knows. That is how I understand God to be. The mysteries that man cannot discern, that is God. The color in the mist of all the different nebulas and the different beautiful things that you will see in the cosmos, that is God. That's infinite intelligence. Ancient wisdom that cries aloud in the street for those who will listen. That's everywhere. But because everybody talks so much these days, you don't know what's wise and what's not wise. People listen to celebrities far too much, in my opinion, and take their word as gold. I feel like we've forgotten how to think for ourselves. I don't know how we as a country have devolved to the point to where we elected the buffoon that we had before Joe Biden. But it is what it is. There was definitely nothing wise about that choice. Universal energy, which cannot be created nor destroyed. That's for you science nerds. You know that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, which means that everything within creation already exists. Let's just pause right there, because that ought to be a mindfuck for some people. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, which means simultaneously that everything within creation already exists. Let me just pause there, because some people might be scratching their heads wondering, like, how is that possible? How is that possible? Ask God how that's possible, he'll tell you. Angelic warriors who have been commanded to keep my foot from striking the stone. That is in Psalms. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. I'm going to tell you, Psalms 91, I have been in some perilous situations within my life, and I would pray Psalms 91. And Psalms 91, something about the wording of that psalm activates the universe to move on your behalf, and you find rescue. A better way of saying it is rescue finds you. Eternal friendship will abides within me and me within it. That one is so hard. I don't know if it's hard to fully expand on it, but eternal friendship. When you realize that your soul is eternal, then you'll determine that you need God to be your eternal friend, because that's the only way you're gonna make it through this thing with your sanity. And Jesus says, "Abide with you." If you abide within us, He will abide within you. But just really look at God as your friend. If the universe could, squish himself down to, like a 10-foot giant or something, I would just walk around with a 10-foot giant like I'm walking around with God. That's how I try to imagine Him, just to make God tangible in some kind of ways. But I really do picture God as a friend, not as a third person or third party that I have to tap dance around and beg for blessings. That's not the God I serve. That's not the God I know, furthermore. Incorruptible abundance, of which I am an heir, you are welcome here. Abundance can be corruptible. I have made a life decision not to accept money that will betray me, which has basically led me to having to start my life over. And it's been the most exciting experience. I have learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about people. And the reset was required. And I'm glad that it happened. I don't have any regrets about it. Because now when money touches my bank account or money touches my hands, it is not money that I feel like I don't have to go spend the money to feel good about making the money. I don't have to go do anything with my money because I have worked my ass off or done something that I hate because of the money. So, incorruptible abundance, of which I'm an heir, which means that I expect it. I expect to receive it. I demand it. Unlimited mercy, which is renewed every morning. That's also in Psalms. Divine prosperity, which has been promised to me. That's just a promise of God. Inexhaustible imagination. God's imagination is inexhaustible. Like, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. Man puts a cap on what God can do. And Let me just tell you something. If you are talking to somebody about God and they cannot sit on the floor and color with you, then you need to stop having that conversation. Okay. You need to talk to somebody who has an imagination that matches yours as far as what God's majesty and power is. Because if their imagination is limited, it has the ability to affect your imagination and capabilities of what God can provide to you. Immovable peace, which surpasses all understanding. That was self-explanatory. I'm gonna tell you something. When you get it though, I mean, like when it really sits on you, you can learn to be immovable. I've been, what month is this? This is May. So I'm not uh, participating in Ramadan as Muslims do, but I am recognizing the period right now in certain ways. But I've been fasting since December. I stopped for a few weeks in April, and I've restarted a different way, and it's been extremely energizing to me. Actually, this Ramadan period, but nevertheless, like um, during the period of fasting, um, some days I would sit in my chair and meditate and pray. Sometimes all day, sometimes 8 or 9 hours straight. And my deal with God was I will get up from meditating and fasting once I get hungry, because typically just when God and I communicate, when I start having hunger, He's kind of done for the day, or at least He's done for that time of the day. But there would be some days where I could be meditating for almost an entire day and have no hunger, and I just feel like I was having the most beautiful moment with God, and um, that would be fine to me. Like my body wasn't even craving food; it was so full, and I wasn't hungry. It wasn't that I was even trying to starve myself. It was like I literally just did not need the food. My body was calm enough without, and I could hear God actually clearer without the food. And then eventually it just became an indicator for me that once I got hungry, that means that God was through talking. And then I could, move on to something else. Perfect order, which banishes all confusion. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Like I said, everything else in the universe but man follows the perfect order of the cosmos. So I am welcoming the perfect order into my life and banishing all confusion from my life. And that is working. God is not the God of confusion. He is a God of perfect, perfect, perfect order. Even if it doesn't look perfect, it's always perfect. Always, always. Windows of heaven, which pour out blessings too big enough for me to receive and enlarges my territory. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. That just kind of goes back to, especially if you're a Christian, that is in Malachi. Malachi 3:10 talks about tithing. I think that the principle of tithing, I think, still works. No Christian should be tithing at church right now because it's not required by the Bible. It is not required by the New Testament. Preachers and pastors will disagree with me, so stop giving your money. I said it. But you can still tithe if you want to, but don't do it because you feel like you're supposed to. You can do it because you want to. The principle and the power of the tithe is still present there if you want to, but if you're being coerced into tithing, and you're not going to be able to receive the full power of the tithe because you're not going to give it with the right heart, the right spirit. You're going to give it with the Cain spirit and not an Abel spirit. And an Abel spirit always is heard first by God. But the truth is, tithing is not required anymore in the New Testament. It's not required. Actually, I don't think is mentioned after the first four Gospels in the New Testament at all. It's just like circumcision. Circumcision is not required anymore. Some people still do it as a religious practice, but it is not required. Same thing for the tithe. So I hope that offended a whole bunch of people because I'm tired of y'all getting over on the money. Dreams deferred, arise to come forth so that my heart may be healed. You are welcome here. That's in Proverbs. I think it's Proverbs 16:3. Could be wrong. But it says, a dream deferred makes the heart sick. And that is a true story. If you've, okay, this, only for folks that still remember what their dreams were. Because some people have forgotten. I've not forgotten mine. And so anything that is running contrary to me touching and living the dreams that I know are true for myself, I can't do it. It is a physical discomfort to my body, especially now that I'm just walking in it so fully. But for anyone that has a dream that they couldn't do, a passion that they couldn't pursue, a passion that they had to put down for whatever reasons, having children, starting a family, your family doesn't allow it. I knew a few people that wanted to go to school for dance or theater or something artsy, and their parents were like, "Who's gonna pay for that education? And what is that gonna do once you get out of school?" So they're just aspects of themselves that they just kind of lost. And then once you have kids, I mean that shit is a wrap for most people. So dreams deferred make the heart sick. Arise and come forth so that my heart may be healed. And I got to tell you, the more that I say this out loud, the more that I feel like my dreams are coming forward. Indiscernible mysteries, reveal yourself to my spirit so that I may see clearly. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Man, indiscernible mysteries can go so many different ways, and I'm not gonna overwhelm you guys with my the mysteries that have become discernible to me that were once indiscernible. It's mind blowing once you really allow God to show Himself to you in a new way. And I'm gonna circle back to that one because I really want to say something there. Unquestionable freedom. Loose any shackles that keep me bound so that I may live without fear. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. I have an affirmation that I'm going to say at the end too, so I'm going to just get my mind right to say that. But how many people here really think that they're free? That's an honest question. I mean, really ask yourself, are you a free man or woman? And free means to do whatever you want to do without being constrained or confined by the wishes of another person. And it's not to, and also say this, a free person will never confine another man to chains. So oppressing somebody does not mean that you're free. It just means that you're oppressing somebody. It means that you have that ability to do that. Are you free to live your life fully the way that you want to? And if the answer to that is no in any way, then your freedom is questionable. I have prayed for unquestionable freedom, to loose any shackles that keep me bound, and I've seen that happen in my life. I have seen that happen. Anything that was going to restrict, more specifically, anything that restricted my understanding of God's character, and my understanding of God's character is what sets me free. Anything that restricted that has always been cast aside without question, because I'm going to always choose that. And I live without fear as a result of it, because it never fails me. Unfailing love that has the power to conquer all. Unfailing love coming first from the universe, has the ability to conquer all, and will continue to do so. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Creation, which already exists. Remove the scales from my eyes so that I may see heaven. You are welcome here. Thank you for your presence. Amen. So, unquestionable freedom. There is an affirmation that I used to say every morning, and it's gotten to a point to where now I don't have to say it anymore. Let me pull that up because I want to read that to you guys properly. And if you feel led to include this into your affirmation routine, please do it. Let me just tell you something that I really took my desire for freedom extremely literally. And in doing so, and also once I started asking these questions, the universe always conspires with you. Sometimes it's just better to ask the question than to tell the universe what you want. Sometimes it's just better to ask the question because it'll parade the answers in front of you as you are ready to receive them. So when I started saying this affirmation, I just thought freedom was a person who lived under a system of government. They might have some life circumstances, typically having to deal with money or family, and you want to be free to do things that make you feel good about being here and having to suffer through life. Okay, that is how most people equate freedom. You want to be free to do shit, do things. But I start asking myself the questions and the affirmation that I'm going to get to, and the first one is one of the first questions is, what choices does a free man make? And every time I came to a crossroads of, am I going to be free with this choice, or will I be bound with this choice? I chose freedom. No matter what I had to lose, no matter what it looked like I was losing, no matter what position they might put me in, I made the free choice, not a choice that would keep me bound. And that has changed my life in dramatic ways. So here, ladies and gentlemen, is I don't have really a name for this one. Just call it the freedom affirmation. I am free. What choices does a free man make? What choices does this free man make? What thoughts does he have? How does he value his time? How does he love? And how does he forgive? And I said this every day, several times a day. And that's real short. And every time I came to a fork in the road, and I was able to just know how to move, I'd ask myself the question: is this a choice that a free man would make? Is this how a free man would value his time? Is this how a free man would love someone? Is this how a free man would forgive someone? Is this how a free man would make his money? And I just kept asking myself, and asking myself that. And let me just start telling you what showed up on TV, on Netflix. A lot of and they've really gotten good since the pandemic, right? But a lot of shows that I started watching were like about samurais and some of the ancient warlords and warriors, and some of the dramatic wars that have taken place, throughout history. And not like World War I and II. I'm talking about like the Mongols, the Chinese, when they were not a unified state. They were just, it was a lot of different. I don't want to say tribes. It was feudal. Feudal. That's the better word. And some of these guys had to be brave enough to get these feudal warlords to stop fighting each other, and that was bloody. So just imagine, like, you know, war on terror has been going on since what, like 2011. So we've been at war for basically 20 years, which isn't even a whole generation. But some parts of the world, they were born in the bloodshed, they died within bloodshed, they gave birth to children within bloodshed. That's all they knew. We're not talking 40 years of warfare. We're talking in some cases hundreds of years of constant warfare, and that was every day for them. And the alternative for these folks was, if we don't suit up, if we don't do what we need to do, our women could be raped, our children could be sold off into slaves. So it's gonna be my life or their life. And to them it was kill or be killed. That's freedom. Not that I'm advocating going to kill someone, but you should be able to kill your demons. You should slay all your demons, because slaying your demons frees you, right? But killing another man, that's God's business, and I'm not advocating that at all. Unless you need to defend yourself, then it's allowed. But nevertheless, we don't know freedom. Modern man doesn't know freedom unless you've had to defend your life, or you've gone off to war, or you've had to defend the life of somebody else. If you have not put your life on the line to where you could just still be breathing right now, or put your life on the line in defense of another person, you don't know freedom. It's a different choice when it is really life or death. It's a different choice when it's life or death. Furthermore, it's a different choice when it's your life or somebody else's life. Because if it's somebody else's life that you don't love, you don't give a shit. If it's somebody that you love, you will give your life for that person. Even for your own life, right? Put yourself in that situation where you really got to choose. The way that man makes a life or death choice now isn't by the sword, it's by the money. You make a life and death choice by the job you take, by the person you marry, by the company that you keep, by the words that you speak. Those are your life and death choices that men have right now. And in my opinion, especially when it comes to words, People are losing the game, speaking way too much death, right? My personal opinion, but that's also a very strong belief. God's word does not return to him void. The words that you speak will manifest in your life without question. Like 100%, that is going to happen. So, for all the people that say, oh, I'm fat, or I'm anxious, or I can't do this, or this is just the way that I am, congratulations, you have just cast a spell over yourself to permanently cement you in that for as long as you say it. Point blank, period. Signs follow, they don't proceed. So you can't say, I'm anxious, but I want to get better and not call yourself better. You should start out by saying, I am better. I am not anxious. I am excited. I am patient. I am overjoyed. I am anything but anxious. Find a different adjective. I'm uncertain of what to say right now will be better than saying I am anxious. Because now, at least when you say I'm uncertain about what I'm speaking, you just got to find the right word. But when you say I'm anxious, the universe is going to serve you up what you asked for. That's why people say affirmations, right? You affirm in the morning or affirm throughout the day. You speak that thing over yourself. You're activating the universe to work on your behalf, and it will do so. But your words can do the opposite effect when you use them like fools. I'm just going to say it just like I meant it. When you use your words foolishly, be prepared to receive a fool's reward. That's just how it works. God does not choose a side. If you ask God to serve up life, he will serve up life. If you ask God to serve up death, he's going to serve up death. What grace is, that people have misunderstood, is grace is the time that passes between when you are foolish and you let death escape your lips to when you actually realize the manifestation of whatever it is that you spoke. Especially now, because if you recorded yourself all day and you counted the good things that you said and the bad things that you said, and all the things that you said negative about yourself were to happen instantly, we'd all die. Well, most people, I wouldn't. I say that with confidence because I really guard my tongue. But everybody ain't like that. And because you don't understand the power of spoken word, it just goes over your head, and then you wonder why your circumstances don't change. If you speak it over yourself, it's going to happen. I used to know someone that would always say that they were a regular person, and there was nothing regular about this person at all. And they would say it no matter the situation, and until a conscious decision is made that you are not regular, you will live a regular lifestyle. You will live a regular whatever. You will not be above average if you do not declare yourself above average. Nature responds to your nature. This is the last thing I'm going to say before I cut off the podcast. The universe responds to you as I am. That was the first, in the first paragraph of the affirmation that started this program. The world, I'm not even going to say the world because that includes people. That nature, the circumstances of nature, just the circumstances of life in some cases, and actually in all cases. As you step outside into the world as you are inside, how you feel inside, the world responds to you as the energy that you give off. I want to make that clearer for people to understand. If you walk out feeling weak, then the universe is going to kick your ass. If you walk out feeling strong, then the universe is going to give you things to help you feel stronger. The universe is really your silent partner. It is really working with you to give you the things that you want in life, but you can't oppose it. You can't be walking in contradiction to the universe and think it's going to help you out. The more you line yourself up, the more the universe lines this. Actually, the universe is always lined up. The more you line yourself up with the universe, the more you're able to receive all the wonderful things that the universe really would like to give you once you learn how to activate it. So, hope I didn't bore you to tears in episode 1. Episode 2 will come out whenever it's supposed to. Thank you so much for listening. I am Samuel Ibrahim. The books again are Mind of the Prophet, Diary of a Curious Mind, volumes 1 and 2 on Amazon and Amazon Audible. You can also find my blog at www.mindoftheprophet.com. On social media, I am on Instagram at iam.samibrahim. And on Twitter, it's all together, iam.samibrahim. I'm also on TikTok, but I just feel like I gave you guys way too much information. My email is mindoftheprophet@gmail.com. And thank you again. I will talk to you guys next time around. Goodbye.